Lord Meher, Volume 3, by Balkalchuri. Here is the mid-1920s, 1926. It was evening and the winds were still swirling. Gulamasi began wondering how she would be able to return to Ahmednagar. Baba looked at her and picked up a metal pot beside him, flung it forcefully away. Immediately the storm subsided and the weather became normal. Gulamasi was amazed, and when she returned to Ahmednagar, she reported this incident to her brothers, revealing the master's power over nature. In other words, Baba flung an iron pot as the storm was going, and suddenly...
Why did he do that?
He stopped the storm. The storm stopped as soon as he flung the pot. So, and when you asked Baba about miracles, he would say, no, I don't work with miracles.
But he does.
He did sort of he did it in a way, that was sort of not emphasized. He didn't emphasize it. I think in different Advents, Christ, for instance, really worked heavy with miracles because of the man's ignorance at that time. He raised the dead and so forth, everything else. But Baba would say a lot of times miracles are the result of your love for me. My grace has given you the miracle because of how much you love me. And now we begin another paragraph. Afsari, that's A-F-S-E-R-I, first met Baba in Bombay during 1924 and wished to stay permanently with him. He inwardly saw Baba as a sultan in his dabar and wished to serve in his court. A year later, Baba called him to Meherabad and he began living with the Mandali. At this time, Meherabad property was infested with snakes and scorpions. One day, an unusually long snake was killed near the post office, and Baba came to see it. Afsari picked up the dead snake to show it to Baba, but Baba gestured to him to discard it and then ordered him to wash his hands 24 times.
Wow.
Watchdogs were necessary to guard the property. During this period, Baba expressed the need for a new watchdog. Madhav Rao brought his uncle's dog to Meherabad, but after a few days, Baba ordered Anna 104 to return to its owner in Ahmednagar. The Mandali were in favor of keeping the dog, but they remained quiet, respecting Baba's wish. When Anna took the dog back, the reason behind Baba sending it away was made known. Madhav's aunt told Anna that she did not like the dog being taken to Meherabad and had even written Madhav twice about it, but Madhav felt disappointed in his uncle's attitude and avoided bringing her feelings to Baba's notice, not showing him the letters. A God-conscious master possesses universal mind. What difference did it make whether Meher Baba read the letters or not? No matter ever remained hidden from him. He knew every moment what every person in the world was doing and thinking, and also what each one would do or think after thousands of years. Meher Baba's every act was an expression of infinite kindness. On August 10th, the Irani New Year was celebrated. All the Mandali awakened early and bathed at 5 o'clock. The women Mandali gave Baba a ceremonial bath. Baba applied perfume to each woman, and they had milk tea and grapes for breakfast. 2 days later, Arjun Supakar, the director of the school, fell ill and was unable to work. So for some days, Baba assumed Arjun's duties and looked after the children's meals, bathed them, and did their laundry. Gosh, what a versatile person. I mean, he just...
I'm sorry, which day was Iranian New Year here, Baba?
August 10th, 1927, 26. It varies, doesn't it, from year to year?
Right.
Meher Baba would explain about the past avatars to the Mandali. On August 16th, he revealed about the Prophet Muhammad. Infidels knocked out the teeth of Prophet Muhammad, and he did not let out even a single sigh. As masters, our ways are quite opposite to the ways of the world.
He knows everything, you see.
We outwardly harass those who love us, and we do nothing to those who despise us.
Why do you do that?
We nourish us. Just listen to this. We nourish our enemies and kill our friends.
Say that again, please.
We nourish our enemies and kill our friends.
Wow. We hear that about harassing.
No, this is the masters. Mohammed was one of us, and his teeth were broken by stones.
Muhammad was, yeah.
Look at what happened to Jesus. He was crucified. We crush the eyeballs of our lovers underneath our heels and ignore our foes. Oh my God. I remember Jeff McGuire read that once.
Of mercy.
No, but this is such... We crush the eyeballs of our lovers underneath our heels and ignore our foes. We mercilessly tyrannize our lovers and even murder them. But no one has the right or the daring to ask us why we do it. No one has the right or the daring to ask us why we do it. When one is in contact with a Sadguru, yoga is meaningless and totally useless. What is the use of fasting for even 100 years to attain God? What is the use of dying a physical death for God? Just remember my one instruction. Remain bowed. Submit to my wish. You have to become like the dust beneath my feet.
I've heard that before.
Do not desire occult powers. They are obstacles on the path. Take a spider, for instance. It is all right as long as it remains still. But the moment it starts weaving a web, it gets so entrapped it cannot free itself. The more it tries, the more it gets entangled, caught in its own web. The following day, a neatly dressed yogi who spoke broken English arrived in Meherabad. He bowed to Baba and prayed for his divine help. Baba directed him to stay at Meherabad and then quoted these words in Gujarati. Matla, Gatla, Gotla, Satla, Watla, Chatla, or Potla.
What the name is that? What name?
Baba, poetic remark implied that for begging purposes, a yogi should not possess anything more than a cloth bag and a staff. He should not accumulate things, should avoid all comfort, and should not wear long hair for the sake of show. He should be attached to nothing and follow the precept of the wandering yogi, the flowing water. A yogi should live according to this precept. However, after only 11 days, the yogi wished to leave Meherabad. On Baba's inquiring the reason, he replied that the food was not good. Disappointed by his attitude, Baba allowed him to depart. Watching him go, Baba remarked with a poetic sarcasm, "Came for God, left for bread." In other words, he complained the food was no good in Meherabad.
Like me, I went, by first time I argued with the Christine. I said, what's breakfast? He said, that's a little bit yellow rice, dry. I said, where's my coffee? He said, no coffee, can't you know? Boy, I can argue. I was crying. I want my coffee in the morning. My first day.
Who was this?
The first day in Meherabad.
Then I went to Meherabad, yeah.
Yeah, I missed my coffee.
Christine tells me and she laughs. So much of dry rice for breakfast.
Dr. Ghani Musif had one of the most gifted minds among the Mandalay. However, his perceptive mental faculty and keen wit would sometimes stir debate among the men. He had arrived in Meherabad a few days before, and late at night on August 19th, a heated discussion on religion and Baba's explanations about the path to God took place between Syed Sahib, Ramju, and Ghani at the school building. Baba happened to come by in the middle of their debate and found them arguing. Syed Sahib claimed that when he read the Quran, he found it similar to the explanations given by Baba, while Ramju argued that they were not similar at all. Unable to determine who was right, they appealed to Baba. To appease them, Baba explained, "My explanations are quite different from the scriptures of any religion, and they have nothing to do with the shariat, or the way aspect of religion." Actually, shariat means the grace, grace. And then,
kind of religion too. You know,
I see, the path of religion. If we find any illumination in scriptures, it is in the Hindu Shastras and Vedanta. Wow. So he really emphasizes, if we find any illumination in scriptures, it is in the Hindu Shastras and Vedanta. But they too are only a shadow of my explanations. None of the great masters in the past has given such explanations as I have. There were great masters, great prophets, and they realized so many souls. However, what they gave or left to the world was only the shariat, or the sweet syrup. So now the shariat is like the essence of a religion.
Right.
They only gave internal knowledge, or gnosis, to their close disciples, who were very, very few. What they said and what was written down to make books was only the knowledge and rules of rituals and ceremonies, appealing to the ordinary minds of the time. While what I give is the explanation of the knowledge that is beyond the scope of the ordinary intellect to grasp and understand. Even though these explanations are mere shadows of the real knowledge, they are beyond mind to follow. What I explain is a subject beyond the comprehension of the mind, and that only to those who are prepared to digest it, not to everybody. For all can neither grasp it, nor tolerate it, nor even bear to hear it. For example, I say you all are God, whereas Islam and all other religions claim you are servants of God. I say Muhammad was God incarnate, but the Mohammedans say he was only sent as a messenger. The same is the case with Zarathustra and Christ. I want you to know that all your clapping, bhajan singing, tying the Parsi kusti, and praying namaz are merely drills. Only take one name of God, give up anger, lust, and greed. This is all that is necessary. But the orthodox section of any religion would blow out my brains if they heard me uttering such words. And I pity them all. Why? Because they are so narrow-minded, so shallow in their vision. I say to you, do not be cowards like them, fearing hell and the anger of God for accepting these truths, which are real truth. The very foundation of all my explanations is sanskaras, which no religion has explained. I have so clearly and logically put it, nowhere are sanskaras explained so elaborately or so eloquently. Would you want to read now? Or Gigi's turn first.
Your turn.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right here. 2 days.
Really, Fred, no religion explained to us about Sanskara except Baba.
Oh, you never heard that before?
No.
You never heard it in...
About Sanskara.
Oh, you're a Muslim.
Yeah.
You never heard...
We never heard Sanskara, no.
So that's a very important thing then.
Yeah.
I never heard it in... the Catholic Church calls, sins, mortal and venial sins. I don't know if that has more... I don't know if is that like a sanskara, mortal sin, or venial sin? Venial sin is not as bad.
This is a mortal sin.
Maybe in sort of a way that it's sort of, but it's still not as...
Then explain to us that Baba.
I think sanskara includes everything, all impressions, whether they're good
or bad. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, sins are just sins.
are considered the no-nos.
That's a good point.
Okay. 2 days later, Ramju and Ghani left for their homes in Lonavala.
Remember that place we were going to stop at? It's got all these nice resort hotels. It's a mountain station, Lonavala, between Pune and Bombay.
What's it called?
Lonavala.
Oh, with the bus.
Lanalva.
I think bus goes around there or taxi.
A bus, a train,
yeah,
the train and
I
bus
know,
go
I saw
there.
it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
I
say
used to
all
get
the
it.
It's a
people
mount-
go
it's a
from
mountain
Maryland,
station.
I saw it,
from
yeah.
Bombay.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's, in other words, it's about 20 degrees cooler than Bombay.
Uh-huh.
So Bombay's 100 degrees, it's 80. It's beautiful, well, you know. So you see these Bombay people coming there with their, like a holiday.
Yeah. I saw that.
Lanalva, yeah. It's a resort town.
Early that same evening, Baba was sitting in the Maycan in a very pleasant and expansive mood.
By the way, the Maycan was a constructed room within a room at Meherabad. It was just like this building built, and inside the building they built this Maycan sort of separate structure within the structure. Baba would go in there a lot, and that building eventually was disassembled. It was built and then taken down.
From among those sitting around him, his eyes fell on Gopal Swami. Baba asked him, "Tell me what you most desire." Gopal said nothing. Baba pressed him, "Go on, ask me. Ask for anything. Tell me your desires now and I will grant them." Gopal kept quiet and only smiled at Baba. "Speak out," gestured Baba. "Empty your head and heart before me. Now is the time. I, of my own accord and will, am asking you to have your desires fulfilled. Now is the time when I am in the mood." Let's see what he asked for. The other Mandali too began encouraging Gopal to speak up. Gopal finally let out one word: "Mukti," liberation. Baba smiled and gestured. "Granted, so be it." Then Baba remarked to the Mandali, "Gopal is a very good and sincere devotee. He is the only determined and staunch keeper of my orders. Out of the many yogis, sadhus, fakirs, and ascetics,"
Fakir is beggar.
fakir, "who have come seeking spiritual advancement, he is the only one who has survived and not run away on one pretext or another. He obeys me without question and willingly accepts whatever food is offered to him." Gopal Swami came to stay at Meherabad in January 1926 and agreed to follow Baba's orders for 1 year. Under Baba's direction, he was observing silence for certain hours each day and was also instructed to repeat God's name while sitting under a tree by the road. Baba continued, "I will fulfill your wish, and in this birth," testing him, Baba asked, "but suppose I were to give you the form of a donkey, a leper, or a cripple in the next?" Gopal humbly replied, "As you wish, Baba, if it would be your pleasure." Baba then asked Srinath Vibhuti Gadamali, a bearded Swami who was also staying at Meherabad and following similar instructions, to tell how he happened to come to Meherabad. He related that while he was visiting the tomb of a saint in Gangapur, he had a dream in which he heard a voice urging him, "Go to Dond village and your work will be done." The next morning, as he started for Dond and passed through Arangan, he decided to have Meher Baba's darshan. From that day on, Vibhuti remained at Meherabad. Gopal Swami then related how he had first come to Meherabad. He had previously visited Upasani Maharaj at Sakori and Narayan Maharaj at Kidaigan. Once, while he was in Dond, someone told him that among another Sadguru lived at Arangan. He began walking there and along the way felt very thirsty. He saw an old villager drawing water from a well and approached him. The old man talked with him at length. When he found out that he was in search of a master, he offered Gopal a cactus fruit, saying, "This is the food which Sagurus eat." Gopal unhesitantly ate the peculiar fruit, whereupon the man said, "Go to Arangan and nowhere else. He is there. Go to him and your desire will be fulfilled. The master who will guide you and give you what you want is in Arangan." Gopal followed the man's advice and met Meher Baba the next day. Hearing this story, Baba remarked, "Do you know who that old man was? It was me in disguise." The next morning, finding out that one of the boys had disappeared from the school, Baba called the men Mandali to him and at 8 o'clock and asked them why the boy had left. Baba held the director Arjun and the teachers responsible, maintaining that due to their carelessness, the boy had run away. As a punishment, Baba ordered them to keep bitter quinine powder in their mouths without swallowing or spitting it out.
Geez, have you ever tasted quinine? I was given quinine. I was ill this last year in December. It is so bitter that you really don't want to take it.
Who gave you quinine?
Dr. Gus. Remember when I had the virus?
What was that?
He was sick.
I was sick and I got quinine pills. Quinine is dark brown pills,
Oh, yeah?
and it has such a bitter... In India.
In
It
India.
has such a bitter taste that...
He was sick the whole time.
Oh,
he
my
was.
God. I mean, I swallowed the pill, but just in the process of it touching my tongue, just for a matter of a few seconds, it was so bitter that I drank it down with water, you know. Can you imagine keeping quinine in your mouth?
Wow.
Jeez, it's real. That's where the saying goes, a bitter pill. Oh, quinine is really, whew. Anyway.
When they were unable to bear the horrible taste any longer, Baba allowed them to spit it out and gave them a sweet to get rid of the taste.
Oh,
You want to continue?
my.
It's right there.
Okay.
Massage.
Okay. Masaji had been visiting Pune for some days. When he returned to Meherabad on August 23rd, he narrated this story. Mother Shireen had gone to Hazrat Babajan with a garland of flowers one night. She wanted to put it around Babajan's neck, but when she stood before the ancient woman, Babajan asked her to garland herself with it. Shireen hesitated, but persuaded by those present, she garlanded herself and then immediately took off the garland and gave it to Babajan. Merwan's photograph was kept nearby. Babajan placed the garland of flowers around it and, resting her hand on the photograph, began to weep. She told Shireen, "My son will shake the whole world." And she slyly added, "You are in for a surprise today." When Shireen returned home, she heard her daughter Mani cry out, and when she went over to her, Mani exclaimed, "Look, a string is wrapped around my leg and won't come off. It moves." To her horror, Shireen saw a small snake wrapped around Mani's leg.
Oh my gosh.
It quickly disappeared, and she later explained to Mani that it was not a string but a snake. Meher Baba's master would openly express Meher Baba's masters would openly express their love and affection for him. During this period, news continued to come from Pune that Babajan would bow every day to Meherwan's photograph and shed tears. From Sakori, stories were told that Upasni Maharaj was telling his followers, "There is nothing here. On to Meherwan in Alangan." It is similar, in a similar manner, Hindi devotees were who took Narayan. How do you say that? Narayan.
Right.
Narayan Maharaj Darshan would be sent to Meherabad, which showed that Narayan was also publicly acknowledging Meher Baba's divinity.
Well, that's where they got the name Narayan. Who
Yeah, that
named their
Kevin
yeah,
and
that's
somebody
Kevin,
Yeah,
else.
Kevin,
Two people did.
Vanessa. Yeah.
But two people, another person,
Ah.
I forget who else did.
Their children are named Mariam?
Another one.
Oh.
I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Kurt.
I tell you, people in the world are going to say, who keep up with these names?
That's sort of beautiful.
It is a
Narayan.
beautiful
I like
name.
it, yeah, you can call them Nari for sure.
One girl in the Myrtle Beach name is Mansari. Somebody put her daughter's name Mansari.
That's a beautiful name.
But she said in the school in Myrtle Beach, everybody make fun of, what kind of name is that? What kind of name is
That's
that?
not so. That's a
Mansari.
beautiful name.
Oh, now there's so many unusual names. That's amazing that people still think it's strange.
Once during August 1926, the regal Sadguru Narayan Maharaj came to Meherabad. Narayan would often travel on tour. Throughout India. And as he was in the train going from Kedgaon en route to the north, the train was about to pass through Ahmednagar, passed through Ahmednagar when it suddenly came to a halt. Narayan asked those, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble reading. Okay. Anyway, asked those circle members traveling with him what had happened. You know, Kenneth, I need your glasses because the pinholes are a little funny.
Yeah, sure are.
Do those help you?
Yeah, they're very good. They're excellent.
Are they prescription or are they
They're just natural.
They're supposed to help you do what?
Strengthen the eyes and rest them and relax them
Oh, you look
and
good.
exercise them. Okay, that's why.
Look
Because
good.
they do. All right.
You like
Okay.
it?
No, I've seen them, but I don't know what they
You
do.
like?
They're supposed to be very good for you.
Forces it focus through those little holes.
See, they have little holes. Right?
They exercise the eyes. And
Oh,
okay.
I see.
They exercise the eyes.
Yeah, they're anyway good.
Yeah.
Passed through Ahmednagar when it suddenly came to a halt. Narayan asked those members traveling with him what had happened. They did not know. A signal might be down or there might be an obstruction on the tracks. No, Narayan said. This is Meher Baba's ashram. Go and look. And to their amazement, when his disciples opened the door and looked out, there was Meher Baba, standing under a tree with his hands folded. Lined up by the railway tracks were many of Baba's mandali, also standing with folded hands. Narayan was informed that Meher Baba was nearby, and he came out of his compartment and stood at the door of the train, silently looking at Baba. After a few minutes, he signaled to Baba, "Should I go?" And Baba waved back to him to leave. It was as if the whole incident was prearranged. As soon as Narayan settled in his compartment, the train started up again. Narayan's disciples reported that no obstruction was found, and that the conductors and engineer were wondering why the train had come to a sudden halt. Narayan only smiled. During the later 1920s, it was noticed that whenever Narayan Maharaj passed through Ahmednagar by train, it would invariably stop near Arangoan for an unscheduled brief halt, and Narayan would ask his disciples if they were at Arangoan. To their surprise, they would see Meher Baba's hill out the window. After a few months, the train would mysteriously start up again. On August 28th, Baba and the Mandali went to Bistibal. Oh, those names are a little hard. Bistibal, a garden outside Ahmednagar. Then they visited a center for destitutes where they had tea. One blind boy who regularly worked at Meherabad was living at the center, and Baba promised to restore his sight when he started speaking again. A man named Murlidhar was the tailor at Meherabad. On August 29th, there was a dispute between him and Bairamji. Is that how you say it?
Right.
Who thought Murlidhar was doing his work improperly. Bairamji was so upset with him that he ordered him to leave. Murlidhar left and sat under a tree till the afternoon, but eventually he went to Baba to complain about Bairamji. Baba remarked to the other Mandali present, "Both are guilty. By stopping his sewing work and leaving the shop, Murlidhar broke my order. And as I told him to stitch the clothes, Despite Bairamji's threat, he should not have stopped working. Of course it would have been different if Bairamji had thrown him out of the shop." Baba then warned Bairamji not to dismiss anyone from work without his consent, reminding him to report any breach of his orders directly to him. On August 31st, Baba declared that he intended to discontinue his one meal a day, informing the Mandali that he would remain on either tea, milk, or coffee only. Baba explained that in the last stages of his fast, he would remain only on water. He remarked, "At the end of this fast, on February 1st, I will be like a corpse for 70 hours, and when I rise again, I will make others rise with me. In fact, I am a corpse, but for the benefit of those in my circle, my body will be really a cadaver for 70 hours in February." Before starting the fast, Baba also conveyed that he would not give discourses to the Mandali or participate in any games with the children. But after 3 days he resumed giving discourses and took part in the sports activities as usual. On September 1st, Baba informed the Mandali, "From tomorrow I will stop eating solid food for 5 or 6 months. So with your own hands cook various food dishes for me today, since this will be my last meal before I break my fast." The cooks prepared a delicious meal for Baba, which was ready by noon. Baba tasted each dish and then distributed the food to the Mandali. He began fasting the next day, taking only a small amount of weak tea. The man who handled all the milk for the people at Meherabad was ignorant of a master's ways and kept disobeying Baba's order not to leave the property. During this period, the man's health suffered because he continually broke Baba's order. On one occasion, when he again left Meherabad without Baba's permission, he became seriously ill. He pleaded for Baba's forgiveness. Baba forgave him, but severely warned him never to leave Meherabad under any circumstances without prior permission. The 9th of September was the Parsi New Year. At 7:30 in the morning, a cricket match was played, and at its conclusion, gifts were handed out. A bhajan program was held until 9 o'clock at night. After the singing, Baba suddenly announced that he desired to eat something. All were surprised because he was intending to fast for several months. Baba remarked that he would have a meal or two on two conditions. I will only eat certain dishes, and the food has to be ready in 17 minutes. 17 minutes. The Mandali at once stopped everything and rushed to cook the food. Several men went to Shah Shane's house to bring some items. The women were told that Baba wanted to eat bhajas, but as they did not have any chickpea flour prepared, Naja quickly boiled some chickpea pulse, while Mehera and Khorshid ground it into powder. Naja and Dolly then began frying the bhajas. Suna cut the onions, and within 17 minutes the bhajas were ready and sent to the men's side.
17 minutes. That's good.
Practically fantastic.
That's fast food.
Yeah.
Baba felt very happy with their efforts, though he ate only a little and distributed the rest to the Mandali. A painting of Ganesh, the boy with the elephant head. There's a little asterisk, meaning a
Yeah,
footnote.
you could go to the back page.
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Just keep your place there with
Yeah,
a marker,
okay.
and
Go to the back.
it'll have the page number will be the
The
reference.
page number is the reference.
Right.
841. Okay. 841. Here we are. Ganesh is the Hindu mythological son of Shiva, referred to the nothing and the everything for the story of Ganesh. Pages 143, 149. Well, we can't do that.
Yes. Well, I'll just comment that it's the elephant man. It's the elephant-shaped, deity, and it represents apparently good luck.
Oh,
Because
elephants are good luck.
I have seen a lot of people.
Yeah, with nose.
They take the Ganesh deity idol and place it somewhere in their home.
Right.
And it's
It's a good luck, yeah.
yeah, it's a good luck
Yeah.
thing in the Hindu religion, and it's of course bought by all religions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like the elephant. It's a deity with an elephant head. It's a man body, an elephant head.
Oh, but this isn't a real body. This
I'm
wasn't a
sorry,
real person.
Because I asked the people, what
No, it
is...
represented
It was just a little...
represented a symbolic thing. In the,
I asked the people, what is the God? Which God is that? You're the wicked celebration for the big picture for elephant and with nose. And then people told me because it was a man and his wife never had baby. And the man dreamed at night, till in the morning early, go outside from the house. Anybody come in front of you, and your baby going to be, him. And then immediately even out an elephant was walking, around from his house. And then that night he was with his wife, and the baby came elephant and human body. This is that story.
oh, that's the mythology about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, because I also heard somewhere where Baba explained about, I don't know if you know Hanuman, the monkey man.
Uh-huh.
Apparently there was a real person named Hanuman, but he wasn't a monkey man. He's depicted on, he was one of Rama's chief disciples and a warrior, and he apparently was very strong and staunch.
Wow.
But he was not really a monkey man. They just symbolized that somehow in his nature. But anyway.
A painting, now I understand. Okay, a painting of Ganesh, who is what? Okay. Ganesh, the boy with the elephant head, was hung inside Darbar on September 11th to celebrate the Hindu festival of Ganesh. Ganesh Chaturthi. Baba was worshipped and he served food with his own hands to the students. The Mangali were given the duty of singing kirtan every night. Arjun Supekar, Mohan Shashain, Syed Saheb, and Vishnu Deorukar would perform the kirtan, which all enjoyed. Now, is Vishnu Deorukar, is he Baba's disciple Vishnu?
Yeah.
They just left off the other part of it. So that's Vishnu.
I think so. There could be another Vishnu, but Vishnu was one of the Mandalaya named Vishnu. I assume it is.
Yeah. There's a picture in volume 2.
And he was one of the early men, so I'm sure it's him.
You are okay. When I get through,
Yeah.
I have to tell you something I heard about Vishnu. During this period, Vishnu's mother, Kakubai, and his sister Yamuna were staying in Meherabad. Kalubai lived there the rest of her life. Kakubai. On September 19th, Baba remarked, a moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is, listen to this, on September 19th, Baba remarked, a moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is more valuable than 1,000 years of tapa japa, repeating God's name with beads. Should I read that once more?
Did you say a moment?
Let me read it once more. Okay, on September 19th, 1926, Baba remarked, a moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is more valuable than 1,000 years of tapa japa, repeating God's name with ease.
My God.
A moment.
A moment. And you have these rishis and yogis in the Himalayas, and they are the prayer wheel.
Yeah, I was there.
And they do it non-stop.
Non-stop.
And he said, what, 1,000 years?
A moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is more valuable than 1,000 years of tapa japa.
Wow.
Wow.
Someday when people read these books, they won't think that we're odd.
You see how
You know,
ignorant
the thing
people
is,
are.
it's like as though the band played on. Like, what I think of this is like great cataclysms, catastrophes could be going on, and we could still be meeting here on Monday nights reading this book. And to me, that's all that's needed. I really mean that. I always feel like, because this book is not mainstream. The mainstream would not understand this kind of book. It's too depth, it's too deep. It's too soul-searching.
It's too deep and too easy too.
It's easy,
Deep
but
and
it's
too
a
shallow.
spiritual aspirants
Yeah.
type of
It's
path
only
book.
because there's a little more. Our minds are
Exactly.
not closed.
Well, I mean, we relish. I relish to listen to this, to learn, to gain the knowledge, to hear of the side of Baba that I never would dream of hearing about. You know, his discipline and his temper and all this. But you understand. You start seeing what he even says about you can't understand the ways of a master. Don't even try.
If you are in that path, you easily understand.
Exactly, and the point is, he's almost saying, if you don't like the ways of the master, the world's there for you. You can have your family life, your nice relatives, and all your niceties and lovey-dovey situations and all that, and no discipline and just a nice family existence and whatever. But if you want to come to the spiritual life, be prepared to suck it up. Like, this is like in boot camp almost, like what he put the people through at Manzalimim. And so it's different total. I think in the deeper teachings of Jesus Christ and when he first formed his disciples. I think there's similar stories.
Except they're lost to the world.
It's too bad, yeah.
But the fantastic thing about Baba's incarnation is
It's all
the
detailed.
tremendous record of every single
Exactly. And
It's
and
unbelievable.
the archival projects going on at Shariar Press in Myrtle Beach, I don't know if you're on the mailing list, the Shariar Foundation, they are putting on digital tape, all audio, video, tapes dating back to 1956 with Baba, the Mandali, and everything else, digital, which will keep them preserved in a computer CD-ROM format for life. And those will be archival retrieval that can be picked up by computer bases and so forth all over, you know what I mean? So we're going into it.
And it's never did it ever happen in this cycle of time that there is so much information. Just everything is there, everything.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is people will be able to find out about who MeherBaba was. We'll go for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Till 9:30.
Okay. So I want to read this once more.
Yeah, please do.
You know, because it's so potent. On September 19th, Baba remarked, a moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is more valuable than 1,000 years of tapa japa, repeating God's name with the beads. Or, as Vivekananda said, now, do they know who Vivekananda is?
Yeah, perfect master.
Vivekananda was a perfect
Oh, yeah.
master. He was from the Ramakrishna
Yeah,
mission.
he was
a perfect master.
Yeah, as far as I know.
He came here, I think,
1894.
for a
Came to the
period.
Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And his first words out of his mouth at the Parliament of Religion was, "My dear brothers and sisters of America." And the crowd stood up in a frenzy and clapped and screamed and cheered as though he just declared some peace on the world. All he said it with the power of a perfect master. See, he was a speaking master. He said, "My dear brothers and sisters of America." They say his voice penetrated each person's heart.
Wow.
They just, "Ah!" They all stood up and cheered. And then he went on to his address. Then he gave his address. But it was 1894 when he came, and that was the year Baba was born.
1894?
1894. He came to the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. It was a major breakthrough.
How'd you know this?
I read about Vivekananda's life. He's one of my favorites because Vivekananda is such a
He was
staunch
sort of
warrior
beautiful
type.
soul, wasn't he?
And he was walking the streets of Chicago, one of those streets near the water, Michigan Drive or something, and a lady saw him in his Indian turban, and she just said, "Who are you?" And he told her, and she says, "Please come into my house." He goes into her house, and she says, "I don't know why I'm attracted to you." And she starts talking. She ends up becoming one of his first disciples in the West. She starts the Vedanta or Vivekananda Society or Foundation. But she just meets him walking. He's walking by this house.
Well, there's a little Vedanta church up in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lovely little
Well, I
place.
stopped at the Vivekananda Monastery in Ganges, Michigan, on a lark.
Oh.
My father, who died a month ago, lives in White Cloud, which is about 250 miles from Chicago. There's Highway 31, interstate, not interstate, it's interstate highway in Michigan, that has a small sign pointing to a town on the way called Ganges. And when I passed it several times without stopping, I always commented, "Boy, I wonder if there's something related to India in that town of Ganges." So one time I pulled off the road and drove, and the town consisted of one blinking yellow light, not even a stoplight. It's a country town. There was a flower shop and some kind of general store and a little post office. And then I go on there and I go inside and they have a barn converted into a meeting hall with divided rooms on the second floor, and there's a museum of Vivekananda's artifacts, his life story done in miniature mock-up models, like, you know, showing each like a picture description of the time with his mothers and his first contact with Ramakrishna and all this, and then also the Diva Ma, one of the spiritual women too in that order, the Vedanta, is her life is depicted. Then all these books, and they have this beautiful meeting hall with like church-like pews and booklets, and then they have on the altar the masters of the Vedanta, Ramakrishna. They have Jesus's picture. They have Paramahansa Yogananda's picture. And some other masters too of the Ramakrishna, of course, Vivekananda's. And then the bookstore. Bookstore is an honor system bookstore. You just pick out the book you want, put the money in an envelope, and nobody was in there when I was in. Anyway, amazing experience.
So Vivekananda was actually a perfect man.
I heard he was. I know Ramakrishna was.
Yeah, right.
But I think Vivekananda was also achieved God realization too.
He died fairly young.
And George, you told us you want to say something about the Vishnu.
Oh, well.
Yeah, you want to?
Well, okay.
You want to just finish that one paragraph?
Should I finish it?
Or
the page? Should I finish? I'll finish the page.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm going to go read this one again. On September 19th, Baba remarked, a moment of one's life passed with a Sadguru is more valuable than 1,000 years of tapa japa, repeating God's name with beads. Or, as Vivekananda said, to light a hookah water pipe for a Sadguru is better than millions of years of meditation.
Wow.
That's also a wonderful little...
I can almost see a painting done, an artistic, concept of this, of lighting the hoopah.
You probably know what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, hoopah is a water pipe that you smoke. Tobacco or...
It's a long thing.
Yeah, or smoke some kind of... But in some countries it's used for illegal drugs.
Tobacco.
No, but some people use it for smoking, but some countries use it for illegal drugs too.
But anyway, it's a
water pipe.
Yeah, it's a water pipe.
Meanwhile, during this period, the women Mandali were still living in the post office building, which Baba had enclosed with a wall of bamboo screens, forming a private compound. Baba told the women to play cricket inside the compound, and he would sometimes join them.
Oh, the women play cricket! I never knew that.
You want me to read that once more?
No, that's fine.
No, sorry.
Is there more to that
That's
story?
The end of...
How about the next page?
Probably some more.
Is there more to that story or not? Or is it end?
No, that's it.
Oh, good. We can begin. What page do we end on then?
We ended on 841.
Okay, good. We'll pick
and
it
we
up
start
next
on
week.
842, Colonel Irani.
Okay, good. We'll pick it up next week.
Whoever that is.
Yeah, Colonel Irani is a good story about him.
Is it?
Yeah,
is that Baba?
No. He comes to...
it says Colonel Marwan Irani.
Yeah, he's not Baba, but he comes to...
Is that his father?
No, it's either... It's a name, an Irani man who comes to Baba. It's a good story. We'll pick it up there next week. But what was that about Vishnu? Did you want to share?
Well,
the Vishnu, the disciple of Baba.
Right. Okay. When I first, just after I met Malcolm and had been, I call it...
Malcolm
Baba.
Schloss. She's talking about old Baba lover.
One of Baba's circle, his early disciples. He hosted Baba. He and his wife Jean Adriel, who wrote Avatar, hosted Baba at Harmon on the Hudson when he first came to America.
That's 32, isn't it?
Yeah. And then 32, in 46, I met Malcolm. I was taken to his home, to his little apartment for a poetry reading. And anyway, it ensued that Baba was doing some inner things, ferment, it's called ferment, divine ferment. And although Bob had been trailing me since I was a little girl, I now can look back and see certain things. But anyway, the thing is that Baba had grabbed my heart. I mean, just all of a sudden, I just felt, I didn't know what had happened to me, but I felt something profound, and later it was revealed to me.
Yeah.
So then I knew some people. Marguerite Poley knew them too, David and Sonny Livingston. And I met David up at Malcolm's, and we became friends, and eventually, anyway, they told me lots of things. They taught me lots of things because
They live in the desert?
No.
No. Oh,
They're
okay.
gone. They're.
Oh no, I mean, did they used to live in the desert?
No, never.
Oh, so they left their bodies.
Yeah, and, but it was like they taught me lots of basic things about, the Eastern, because I didn't know anything. And anyway, they told me one day that they would tell me, little stories and things. They said that Napoleon was a great soul. Actually, she was clairvoyant, and she did work on the other side. I don't understand much about it, but there are such things, and she was a genuine clairvoyant. And so they were telling me about Napoleon. They said Napoleon was a great soul. And that he, the hierarchy was directing him in his activies. And then, but what happened to him was his ego took over. They wanted him to do the things that he did. And Napoleon's men loved him. Anyway, even, he took them all to Russia and the poor things and everything. So they're telling me this tale, and it's like hearing tales from the 1001 Nights or something. So anyway, they said that the hierarchy, someone from the hierarchy took form and came to Napoleon and said, "That's enough. No more. Don't go any farther." And Napoleon disregarded it. His ego took over, and he, the power, and had himself crowned emperor and everything, and then, of course, he was defeated. Okay. Now, I forget who told me this. And you'll have to research it. That Vishnu, Baba's disciple Vishnu, was Napoleon in his last life.
Oh.
And I don't remember who told me that, but I know it is a good source. I don't know if it's absolute source, but I know it was not some...
You know something? I have recalled seeing Vishnu before.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my
What
mind, but I
volume
saw.
is this?
I mean, but he was just standing very. He had his head up like this. I don't know if he didn't have his hand in like Napoleon's hand, but he just was. His posture was, I guess, regal.
In volume 2 at the end, there's a picture of Baba and Early Mandali. And
Vishnu apparently was told I mean, Joyce heard through somebody that Vishnu, one of Baba's first mandali, in his last life was Napoleon.
And that picture in volume 2, Fred, at the end, when there's a picture of a Vishnu is sort of at this side, at the right side, and you look at that picture and you see what you were telling, that there's a stance.
Yeah.
Okay, now I don't know.
I mean, of course, your imagination picks up on that immediately to associate with what you just said. But it could be though.
Could be.
His persona was, if you see Vishnu, Vishnu's sort of like he's really straight and his head's a little. His head's up of a regal person. Regality.
But yet he was very slight. He was very slight.
Yes, he was slight. Napoleon was small too.
Yeah, but in that picture, you just see, there's something, because the soul does carry certain characteristics.
Definitely.
And I thought, here he was, so here Napoleon, but the interesting thing is I have contemplated after hearing that his men loved him so much, and like Schubert wrote a song about the two grenadiers and how they had been left in Russia and they were trying to get back to France and their feet were bleeding, but they loved their masters.
Napoleon, so
there's
much.
this poem, but anyway, so Baba, I don't know who to ask to verify it, completely.
I tell you, it's...
Because I don't remember who told me that.
Right.
But Vishnu, Baba told Vishnu, Baba came in once, and Baba said, Vishnu, I want you to put on my sandals and go do something. And Vishnu said, oh, Baba, I could never put on your sandals. And Baba said, if I ask you to put on my sandals, he said, no, Baba, I cannot. And finally, Baba said, you must obey me. And he finally put them on. And when I was reading that or hearing that, I thought, that now he has come to such that he would not, he's so humble, humble that he would not even, he had to be forced to just slip on the master's sandals to run and do something. What a thing.
Yeah, he's changed. Oh, great. Thank you.
But I don't know who to ask to know if this is actually
Zarathustra, or our
there to take the...
Chai Baba, everybody. It's November 24th, 1997. It's a little after 8. It's the Lord Meher meeting. It's the biography of the Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba, Volume 3 from 1925 to 1929. And we're on page 842, talking about a gentleman named Colonel Irani. Colonel Merwan Sorab Irani was the highest-ranking Indian officer in the British Army during World War I. And there's a footnote about him. Colonel Irani was instrumental in releasing Bailey, one of Baba's early mandali, from the military prison in Aden, where Bailey was court-martialed for embezzlement in 1917 and imprisoned until 1919. And this is an amazing thing. Here, one of Baba's close disciples, who was his schoolmate or chum in school, Bailey, went into the military. And this was held, this account of Bailey's involvement with this embezzlement was covered in, I think, volume 1 or 2. But it's an amazing episode where he was taking things from the commissary, the military commissary, extra soap, extra food items, canned goods, and stuff. And he was doing it, and then I think he was then black marketing the stuff, making cash money.
Sounds good to me.
And so apparently he was caught doing it, and of course court-martialed. And when he came back to his hometown, I think in Pune, he was looked upon as an outcast. He was ostracized from the community. They, they'd see him coming, and people bow their heads and, avoid him. And he was like, they had the plague, and he was ready to commit suicide. And Baba knew this. Baba sent, forgot who he sent. He sent one of his Mandalay members to his house, and he wouldn't open his door. He'd go away, go away. Finally, he says, "Please, Baba has given me this message to give to you. You must take it. It's an order." So he finally opens the door, and basically what it says is, "Please come immediately to see me. This is important," and so forth. And right on his windowsill was, I guess, a cup of arsenic or something. He was ready to drink it within, just a few seconds before the door, was heard to be, knocked on. And so he came to Baba, and Baba embraced him and told him, "Don't worry about anything. Please, stay with him. And he'll take care of him. He'll look after his life, and he still loves him," because he felt the whole world was against him. When your mind starts getting that way, to where you feel that the city that you were raised in is against you, and the people that you knew, he felt there was no sense of going on. And Baba embraced him. But this is a good example, though. Here Baba takes a convict, 2 years in prison, as one of his early disciples.
Well, did Bailey know about Baba?
Oh yeah, they were friends.
Oh,
they were
that's
school.
right.
They were school chums.
School
Yeah.
chums.
See, well, he knew Baba was a high spiritual master, and he loved him as a friend, and he would never disobey him. In a way. In a way, he was sort of a fringe Mandali or disciple when he went into the doing all these things in the service. He was connected to Baba. He used to go to Baba's meetings and things where Baba was involved, and you know what I'm saying. But then he went into the Navy. You see, so in a way he was still connected, but it wasn't directly with orders from Baba that you're one of mine now, And so when Baba took him back, it was very touching. And then he went on to, serve Baba for I don't know how many years, but pretty nice, huh?
Well, what that says to me is that we can't judge.
Oh, definitely.
Because we don't know
Well,
what the tapestry
also,
is.
we're players. I mean, some of your greatest actors in Hollywood played rough, or always the thug, or George Raft. You follow me? People are casted in life, with their lot, but yet they're still loved by the Creator. You see what I'm saying? I mean, in fact, a couple times in India, I don't know if there's some stories here of thieves. A thief coming to Baba and saying, "That's my profession, I'm a thief. It's been handed down through my family tree." I mean, generations of thieves. And so, what, are you going to take it from me? And Baba finally told the guy, "Stop it." And but thieves, just like generations after generations. I think, if you look at things from the worldly point of view and just say this and that, everything is A, B, C, then of course it is, it's not looked upon in a favorable way. But if you look upon the deeper meaning of things, the person that could be supposedly the biggest, maybe outwardly worldly person, criminal, could probably be closer spiritually to the planes and God realization than the priest in the church who's espousing this or that. See, but that, to the average person in the world, to explain that to them, they wouldn't listen to you. I have that on the internet again. I talk a lot to people about my beliefs in Baba and his all-encompassing understanding and love. And most people say, "Oh, that's wrong. Evil is there in the world, and those that are evil are of the devil, and those of the devil are, are totally lost."
You actually talk to people?
Yeah, there's chat rooms. Oops.
Oh, really? And you talk about Baba?
Yeah, there's chat rooms on American Online. You could you dial your computer up, your phone dials the number, and then once your phone is engaged, you're like on a phone line, except instead of you not talking, you're typing. I'm typing on my computer screen, and that person's in Muncie, Indiana, or Chicago, or New York, or Portland, Oregon, and there can be as much as 20 people in that one, they call them rooms, 20 in a chat room. And all these people are in there, and they're all giving there's so much gibberish besides these spiritual type rooms. There's sex rooms all over the place, lesbian, homosexual, gay rooms, this perversion rooms, and so many things going on out there. It shows you the mentality of the world today is that it's been led down this path of, I don't know, motion pictures or books or whatever, but people just wallow in the stuff. They think that they're going to their least what's the word, or their strongest urge and drive, and they think it's sex, and they think
point of least resistance.
Point of least resistance. So they feel that's a way of in other words, it's instead of like people drinking heavily, they go to their computer and get into these sex rooms and sex talks. Total escapism, and it's amazing. There's now computers that transfer pictures. People transfer nude pictures or lewd pictures or perversion and all that. And it's an amazing thing. And of course, the federal government's trying to maybe get in and regulate it. But I've opened up rooms with Meher Baba's name on them, so I put. Yeah,
You have opened up.
yeah, you could open a room up. I could just create a room and go into a situation and wait for people to come. And I've had people come and it develops into 6, 10, 12 people. Of course, you'll get, who is Meher Baba? He's the avatar of the age. What's the avatar? Avatar is God descending into man. Heresy. I'm a Christian and Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So then I've said, oh God, why did I do this? So then you get involved with that. But anyway, back to where we were. We'll start over again. In fact, Gigi, see, we just started. Colonel Merwan Sohrab Irani was the highest-ranking Indian officer in the British Army during World War I. He was the brother of Daulat Janganar Irani, and after her husband's death, he looked after the family's material affairs. He had been worried about Daulat's contract with Upasni Maharaj, Daulat's contact with Upasni Maharaj, and then worried about Meher Baba, whom he thought would steal her family fortune. For a long time he had been disturbed that Daulat and her daughter Mera were living in an austere ashram instead of in the comforts they were accustomed to. He wanted them to move back to his luxurious house in Pune and live a normal worldly life. But as they refused, he became a fierce opponent of Meher Baba, using his power and influence to try to undermine Baba's work. And you have to remember, this is the highest-ranking Indian officer in the British Army. So this guy is like the man in India. And he is opposed to Meher Baba. On September 20th, at 7:30 in the morning, the colonel, along with Professor, so it's a colonel, by the way, you notice the British didn't make him general.
You know that Sam was saying that Malaysia was also under the British.
Of course.
You see, I didn't know that.
Of course.
So,
Rangoon,
Yeah.
Burma, Malaysia,
yeah,
Singapore.
I didn't realize that because I said, what happened during the war? He said nothing, really. I mean, they were on the side of the English, but I didn't know the Japanese or nobody came into Malaysia.
Well, there was fighting going near Singapore there.
No, but not in Malaysia. Not in Malaysia.
Anyway,
Sorry.
on September 20th at 7:30 in the morning, the colonel, along with Professor Dr. Kapadia of Deccan College and a relative, J. Kapadia, arrived in Meherabad. Oh, they come to see Baba. Rustum cordially led the gentleman on a tour of the ashram. However, he was not acquainted with Colonel Irani, who was his wife's Frainie's maternal uncle. Rustum had heard that the colonel had actively denounced Baba for years and written slanderous articles against him. When Baramji saw the group being shown around, he recognized Colonel Irani at once and informed Rustum to beware of what he said. Professor Kapadia had known Mohan Shahani, who had studied at Deccan College years before. So the professor who's along with this colonel recognizes this other Baba Mandali Shahani. Seeing him in the ashram, Kapadia critically remarked, "It is not good for a bright lad like you to waste your time here." Mohan pointedly explained to him about Meher Baba. Not impressed, Kapadia cynically asked, where does all the money come from all? Where does all the money come from for all this? Boy, you see? Mohan replied, I have nothing to do with that. I only know that the poor, sick, and destitute are being served here. Colonel Irani interposed, it is all self-advertisement. This is all a show of false spiritual greatness. These bitter remarks set off an unpleasant argument between the Mandali and the antagonistic visitors. So Meherban has had some fury there.
They came to start a fight.
Yeah, but can you imagine this? Oh my God, it could probably got wild.
Imagine. Look, the guy's wife is involved. You know what I'm saying?
No, but this is bold. Well, see, they know they have the power. This high-ranking officer,
right.
And it's like, we're walking in here, and you're going to give us the answers.
And his wife wants to go with Baba, right?
Exactly, that's right. It's like what they call it nowadays. They have these people trying to steal back their children from these new age groups. Deprogramming.
Yeah.
What year is this?
This is 1926. The Mandali stopped arguing with the colonel, and Kapadia claimed, now this professor, that Zarathustra, Buddha, and Christ were simply ordinary men whom legend has made great. So one of these teachers is quite a cynic.
That's pretty funny.
Despite all this contention, the visitors still wanted to meet the master. Baba arrived 3 hours late at 10:30. I wonder if he did that purposely, because they got there at 7:30. 10:30. But when Rustam asked the men to kindly take their shoes off before entering Baba's room, they were insulted and abruptly left. They never meant it. I mean, they didn't take their shoes off. Colonel Irani's other sister was Frani, Padre's mother, who lived...
Padre's mother?
Colonel Irani's other sister was Frani, Padre's mother, who lived near Babajan's seat in Charbadi in Pune, in that area.
That's really funny to me, yeah.
He also had become disturbed by Frani's daily devotion to Harzad Babajan. The colonel is upset with her, too, because of her connection with Harzad, and her allowing her son to join Meher Baba's ashram, Padre. Oh my God! So I wish I would have known this. I wish I would have known this when I met Padre, and I used to talk with him lengthily, and I never got deep into this part of his life. Because if I had known this would have been fascinating to hear from him. This same morning, Padre was in a very dejected mood and was thinking of leaving Meherban. While being taken on tour of the ashram, the colonel passed by the dispensary where Padre was prescribing medicines. I guess he was doing his homeopathic stuff way back then. But they did not see each other. This was fortunate, for had Padre seen him when he was in such a depressed state, he probably would have left with his uncle for Pune. My God, that would have been... See how faith has it? The colonel's there, they don't notice each other.
And that's his uncle.
His uncle. And Padre would have left in a minute, because he was depressed. But they didn't see each other, they didn't talk. Colonel Irani had reasons other than mere spite to be openly against Meher Baba. He was a very successful man, but was unmarried and lonely. He suffered a deep disappointment that his closest relatives, Daulat and Mehra, whom he dearly loved, willingly stayed with the Guru in what seemed to be a desolate wilderness. In other words, it was like, we don't need you, you're rich and this and that. You see what I'm saying? He felt like, God, what is this? They go to see some stranger out here, a guru in the wilderness.
Right. There's nothing to offer on the material side.
Exactly. Yeah. Thinking Meher Baba had duped his sister and swindled her out of her money and property, he had become Baba's fierce enemy. Being a warrior at heart, he decided to wage his own private war against Meher Baba. It was the colonel who was responsible for publishing fictitious and misleading stories about Meher Baba in the Parsi newspapers, which at first created suspicion among the Zoroastrian communities about Meher Baba's claim to be a God-realized master. It has been said that the colonel's antagonism became as pronounced as Ravana's against Ram in the great days of the Ramayana. Rama, the avatar Rama, There was a Ravana, his arch enemy, who really was a very strong enemy with tremendous amount of armies and so forth. But here's a footnote on that. Ravana and the Ramayana. Oh, what a great work that is. I read both the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. Oh, I love those. Let's see, so page 844. Refer to the book Ramayana for the story of the Battle of Ravana against Lord Rama. Oh, it was such a fierce battle. So, but anyway, so maybe, see, Baba had his Ravanas against him. I didn't know this. So, for almost 35 years, he continued spreading the worst kind of false propaganda against Meher Baba for 35 years. But this...
35 years from 1926?
Well, it must have started either for a few years beforehand and going on. So you figure, say if he started in 24, so that's 54 to 1960 roughly. My God! This man just hammered Baba. So it said, but this enmity and opposition was a medium for the master's inner work. For many people came to know about Baba through the Colonel's articles. Although the information given was critical and hostile, it stirred curiosity in many people, eventually inspiring them to go and see Meher Baba for themselves. Having his darshan, instead of being met with the alleged poison of Meher Baba, they found the sweet nectar of his loving presence. In many Iranis and Parsis, a firm faith in Meher Baba's divinity awakened, and they later became his staunch followers. But see, he was getting all this publicity. Viewed from this perspective, Colonel Irani unknowingly served Meher Baba tremendously. Because of his ardent devotion to strongly opposing Baba, he too eventually experienced Baba's love. Baba used to remark about the Colonel, "He is so fortunate to be remembering me, no matter how. You have no idea how he really feels about me." After Colonel Irani's departure from Meherabad, the master commented about worldly-minded people. I'm going to take over.
Do you think maybe Kaz could just turn that one on, that light?
Oh, can you turn that out? It's that.
I'm just going to do those windows.
It's that light up there on that wall there.
Let me do those windows right quick, Craig.
Okay, then you can turn it off. Yeah.
For those who are after liquor, women, and wealth 24 hours a day, criticizing the truth or speaking of the truth is sheer hypocrisy. How could such people have any idea of truth when they cannot spare even a moment to think of it and are always after material wealth and happiness? The human mind is such that it makes a person adhere to his thoughts to the extent that even in the field of religion, each man thinks his is the best. The Farsis consider their religion the highest and call most other people Dorvand, untouchables. The Muslims are also in the same category. To them, only Islam and Muhammad are true, and all other people are kafirs, unbelievers. The Christians are no better. To them, only Jesus Christ is the Redeemer, and all other people heathens. It is regrettable that the Colonel could not see me, else he could have had the lecture of his life. However, his waiting for me for 3 hours, despite his undesirable criticism and bad intentions, will not go in vain. He will be rewarded for his pilgrimage. When he had been to Apasni Maharaj at Sikori, the bent of his mind being what it is, he was not even granted permission to taste a drop of water from the holy place, and Maharaj would not meet him. Rustam then related, Baba, the Colonel especially criticized the activities in Meherabad. He said that he had studied a great deal about Zarathustra's life, but that he was not impressed with the things he observed at Meherabad. Baba replied, Zarathustra did in his time what he thought proper under the conditions then prevailing. Now I do what I think best. I am not concerned if the world accepts it or not. It is better you leave if you want to do as you like. What it is to me if your relatives, friends, or the whole world follow me or not. I am what I am. Baba had previously foretold that the Parsis and Iranis would be the cause of his death, but this did not mean his physical death. The meaning concerned the bitter opposition to him and his work, which, though none knew it at the time, was essential for his deeper purposes. A great work was done through this opposition, and people eventually saw what beneficial results manifested. Do you want to continue? Throughout, right down there.
Throughout India, one finds many sadhus or sannyasis who renounce the world and wander on pilgrimage, begging for alms. In reference to sannyas, renunciation of the ephemeral world, the next morning, September 21st, Meher Baba remarked, "He who is a coward materially turns into a hero on the spiritual path." Perhaps you think that, compared to materialism, renunciation is easy, but it is most difficult. He who wants to die should decide on renunciation. External renunciation has no meaning. It must be internal. If there is no longing to renounce the self, there can be no love for God. Afterward, the men Mandali reminisced about traveling in Gujarat, their journeys on foot and other tours. Some suggested another foot journey to let the new ones among the Mandali have the experience. Baba mentioned that he would undertake another journey on the condition that no one carry any money and each maintain himself by begging. With all in agreement, it was decided to go on tour for 7 days, and arrangements immediately started. The men were eager to begin, but Baba suddenly changed his mind and decided that instead of 7 days, they would go out for only 1 day and return in the evening. The gong was struck at exactly 10 o'clock that morning, September 21st, and Baba chose 20 of the men Mandali and started on foot towards the village of Walki, a distance of 6 miles. Each one carried a sack for begging. The men were in a good mood and enjoyed the walk. Striding along, Sarosh played a harmonica and others sang. The men on each side of Baba would lift him up while walking. As it was cloudy, the heat was not overbearing. On the way, Baba halted 3 or 4 times, asking the men whether they should all proceed or return to MeherBaba. A majority wished to go further, so they continued. On the outskirts of Walki, they stopped under a tree. Sailor and another man were sent to search for a cool place, a garden or an orchard in which to camp, and Shahan was sent to order tea from a roadside stall. Near the village, a poor woman recognized Baba and came forward for darshan. Baba asked her to bring food if it was possible. The Mandali remembered what Baba said, eat only what is had by begging. So several men went off to the village to beg. The villagers were suspicious and frightened at finding such unlikely-looking beggars. Only the women and children were at home, as their husbands were out working in the fields. Some gave them food, others told them to leave the village, and some were abusive. One old woman scolded Pendu and Syed Sahib, who were hefty in physique, "Earn your livelihood by hard work instead of begging from poor villagers."
Can I pause?
Okay, Joyce. Top of the right page. Right page.
Great. I don't want to lose these. Okay. Starting on the right page?
Top of the right.
Oh, okay. The ones who managed to beg food brought it to Baba, who poured everything together and distributed the stew among the Mandali, saving the leftovers. Within a short time, the villagers came to know who the beggars really were, and many came for Meher Baba's darshan. Those who had refused to offer food to the Master's disciples expressed regret at their misfortune for missing the opportunity when God in human form was at their very doorstep. Some said he was a thief who stole their hearts, but here he was begging for a little love. The villagers of Walki persisted in bringing food to Baba. One man invited Baba to his home. Seeing his sincere love, Baba accepted. Tea was served, and after taking it, all returned to Meherabad by 3:30. The remainder of the food was brought back with them, and Baba distributed it to the Mandali who had stayed at Meherabad. The Harijan children were urged by Baba not to have any connection with Arangan. Is that how you say that?
You're right. Arangan is good.
But they did not listen. Again they broke Baba's order, and so they were expelled from the school. At a meeting in the evening, it was decided that those Harijans who were opposed to Baba and who were inciting others in the village should be forbidden to enter the boundaries of Meherabad property. On the same day that Baba had gone to Walki, and Harijans had purposely killed and eaten a bullock, just to see what Baba would do. The next day, Shankar Waskar, who had slaughtered the animal, was on his way on horseback to Ahmednagar. Just as he was galloping by the Meherabad hospital, he accidentally fell from his horse and was knocked unconscious. Several of the Mandali ran to help him while others went to inform Baba. Baba soon arrived at the scene and instructed the Mandali to remove Waskar to the hospital, where he was comfortably kept and treated despite his known maliciousness. While discoursing on September 22nd, the Master explained to the Mandali about the state after death. A person dies when his sanskaras are exhausted, spent in full. After a person dies, his sanskaras snap the mind's connection with the gross body, and at that time he receives such a shock that he forgets every incident of his past life. But even though the gross body drops, the mind and the subtle body remain full of sanskaras. For the next 40 to 70 hours after death, the attention of the sanskaras is centered mostly on the place where the body is kept. But after that, there is no connection whatsoever between the dead person and that place. Within the next 8 or 10 days, the spirit of the dead person experiences the subtle state of either heaven or hell, according to his sanskaras. After a person dies, many people perform rites and ceremonies for a long time, but all these are useless. No ritual is necessary after 10 days. However, the best rites would be to feed either dogs or crows near the body, because they have subtle sight.
Is that what Baba said?
Yes.
You know, that's why those dogs curled up at Mani's pyre. You know that? Mansari's dogs came down and they curled up and they stayed for 2 days.
That was before Mansari dropped her body.
Well, yeah, that was, the Mansari's dogs came down from Mani's pyre. I don't know what they did in Mansari, but, but they stayed there, curled up, because they see.
They have subtle sight.
They see
We
subtle.
should probably ask Pam. Pam, what's Pam? I don't know Pam's
Pam,
last name.
forgot her last name.
But she was with Mansari when Mansari passed, and I'm sure she was there whatever ceremony they had. It would be very interesting.
Did you know,
She's coming.
I didn't know about dogs having
did you know
subtle-
this now? Just now,
Yeah,
as it was read.
yeah.
Well, I read that part
Oh, you
a couple
read it.
weeks ago myself, but you just reminded me of it, and so basically what it tells me, though, it reminds me of that fact about dogs, and it says crows too.
Well, that's what the Zoroastrians do.
Yeah,
Zoroastrians,
that's their tradition.
yeah, in India, you
The,
told me
the
that.
Tower of Silence.
Yeah, Tower of Silence.
They leave the
Carcass.
They leave the carcass in the outdoors in this building. This fenced off area, and they let the crows just come.
Crows or vultures?
Vultures, I think vultures.
They
usually.
get vulture.
Vultures.
Vultures come and devour the flesh and bones and whatever they can eat.
40 to 70 hours after death. Okay. No ritual is necessary. Oh, let's see, where was I? Crows and dogs are not subtle conscious. They have subtle sight and can see the spirit of the dead person. Crows and dogs are not subtle conscious, but they have subtle faculties of perception and draw toward themselves the sanskaras of dead people.
Amazing.
What
During,
does that mean?
I don't know.
Well, when a person dies, they have impressions of their life, and so the dogs are impressed with that person and their essence when they're dying. In other words, they...
During this period, an elderly Hindu would often come to visit Baba. His wife was seriously ill, and for years the man had tried unsuccessfully to cure her by going on pilgrimage to different holy places in India and performing charities in her name. Baba assured him that not only would his wife recover, but also she would bear him a son. Some months passed. Unexpectedly, at 9 in the night of September 22nd, the man arrived at Meherabad and, smiling broadly, conveyed the news that a son was born to him. With tears of joy, he kissed Baba's feet in gratitude. The Mahars were among the untouchables of the villages. They were commonly known as Harijans. Some Mahars in Arangaon formed a rough and ruthless gang who antagonized the Mandali and tried to vandalize the property. At times, Baba would get fed up with their hostile acts. On September 24th, the Mahars in Arangaon again caused disturbances. This time, they hung pieces of animal flesh opposite the Upasni Serai and bathhouse. On inquiry, it was learned that some of the Mahar children who had previously stayed in Meherabad, notably a lame boy named Haranath, were secretly causing the trouble. Before taking any action, Baba outlined in a meeting that night the following 4 alternatives to the men Mandali and asked them to choose one. 1. The rest of the Mahars in Meherabad should be forced to leave. 2. The 3 or 4 ringleaders of the Mahars should be arrested, and court proceedings should be brought against them. 3. The 2 Patels, headmen of the village, who are living with the Mandali, should be made to leave Meherabad. 4. Leaving everything to God, we should sit passively. After the discussion, the Mandali approved the 4th course of action. Baba was pleased, as he himself favored this choice. But Baba warned them to stick to their decision because it seemed that the god of the Arangal and Mahars was testing them. Baba observed, "They may even go to the extent of throwing pieces of raw meat in our well, thereby polluting it for the Hindus, and do other mischief. So be prepared to face and submit to more disturbances, inconvenience."